Hello. Thank you for taking time today to take a look at our order entry cash transaction seminar. I'm going to start our presentation by going to the Eagle homepage. Then I'm going to go into order entry. With the Eagle order entry, I can go in to do a quick cash transaction. So I'm going to sign on so we can check my security. This is always checking to see whether I could have the same security as a manager. And I've got a default cash customer. I'm going to scan an item because I can use barcode scanning on the Eagle, and I could scan as many bottles as they've purchased, or I can enter the quantity that they're purchasing. I'm going to total the transaction. I can add additional customer information if I choose, then take payment on the transaction. Now what we're going to see is a laser invoice that's been printed up for this transaction, and we're going to talk about this a little bit more in the next step. Or I could use a 40-column cash receipt like you get at the grocery or at a department store. Now one thing I would like to point out is I've printed my laser invoice on a full page. However, I will show you an example that you can print 2 invoices per page so that I can streamline my paper flow a little bit as well as using the plain paper laser forms. The next step I'm going to show you is I'm going to act as a new employee for your company. I'm going to log on to the system. I have a customer that just popped in, and they're Tom's Auto. Now, if I'm an employee that's been with you a long time, I'll put in their account number and off I go. But since I don't know Tom very well, I'm going to start typing in Tom for Tom's Auto. What comes up are all the names that have Tom as part of the sort name. Perhaps what I'm thinking is I'll ask him his phone number. I can put the phone number in with or without the area code, and it will search for everyone with that phone number. Perhaps the customer has, I know they have the word West somewhere in their name. I can do a semicolon, type in the word West, and it will look for that combination of letters anywhere within their name. I can do the same for the phone number. If I put a dash, 234, I'm looking for those sequence of numbers anywhere in the phone number. And if I have my files really sophisticated, I might ask them for their email address. Putting in the @ begin to type in their address to look for those, to look for the email as a way to find my customer. I can enter the account number. And what I'm going to show you now are a list of optional features. Do I want to display a list of the customer's open orders? In your business, if it happens frequently that someone calls to get a quote, you may put a quote or an order, save it on the system, and maybe 10 minutes later they call back and ask you to ship it. By having the system check for any list of open orders or quotes, then I can go right in, recall that document as opposed to starting another transaction. Here's another optional feature, customer detail. I may want to be able to see how much credit this account has available. Maybe I want to verify a little bit more of their address, or I can have this turned off. Customer notes. Perhaps last week we had an issue with a part. I thought they were going to pick up the part. They thought I was going to deliver the part. We ended up having an issue at the end of the day. So I can put a note onto the customer account to alert the counterman that ask if the order should be delivered. Let's dodge that bullet, provide a little higher level of customer service, and not repeat one of our past transgressions. Now that also can be turned off. Here's authorized to charge. When I select a name from authorized to charge, it's going to print it on the transaction so that if I can't read the customer's signature, at least I know what it was supposed to be. Another option we have with the authorized to charge is I can have their name linked to the picture linked to the name, so it's easier for me to identify that this is the correct person. I'm going to enter one of my parts, and I could have scanned it. And I'm calling up a filter. Well, from here, if I'm multi-location, not only can I see my quantities available, but I can hit display and move through a couple of screens within that description that now allows me to see if I have more quantity available in another location. And maybe I have some pricing or some recent promotions or maybe some quantity breaks that are associated with this item. So I get additional information from that screen, and again, that's optional. I may have some items that have a core to it. So when I sell a core item, the core is automatically listed on the transaction. I do have the opportunity to do core banking. Had this customer been set up for core banking, I would see another line listed here showing the return, not the return of the core, but bringing off the price of that core, the charge of the core. Then I can look at a viewer later to see where they stand as far as their cores sold and the cores that they have returned to me. I might find that I'm selling a part that could have related items to it. They don't have to purchase these other items, but it's not uncommon. So what we have now is the screen that pops up that said there is a base coat and a mid coat that is often sold with this item but not required. But by bringing it up on the screen, I can ask the customer if they need a mid coat, and if they do, I've just provided a customer service as well as an upsell on my transaction. Now let's say that I'm looking for a part that they brought up a gas can and I don't see any ticket, or stamp on it, I don't see any part number on it. I can search by using the description. So I've typed can into the description, and that pops all of my parts that have can as part of the description. Well, this looks like a 5-gallon gas can. I can highlight that line, and by hitting display, I have the option of having images attached to the part. So this makes it that much easier for me to identify that I am selling the correct product. So I'm going to go ahead and select that item. So I have the gas can here on the screen. Now, had I entered the item directly, I would also see the option or the image here on the display screen. So I will see that image in more than one spot. Perhaps I have some items that I need to look up that I don't have part numbers on. They're very small parts. We have another feature called Quick Find. Under Quick Find, you can set up matrices for these items to identify the set of items and then list the items that you'd like to sell them. I'm going to go under fuel containers, and I'll look under the 5-gallon fuel containers. Here I have images linked to the parts. So once again, I could select the item I want to sell, and I've identified it by appearance so I know it's the correct item. If I look at Quick Find again, I might choose to look at a matrix. Here I have some socket sets that I've listed the dimensions of the screws instead of images, because the images would look quite a bit alike. I can select one of the parts and sell it right here on the fly. So it's very easy to find the right part and hopefully narrow down on my problems that I might have had in my inventory from before. I'm going to total this transaction. Here's an option that you have that you can set up by customers. I may choose to. I could fax this transaction directly from point of sale. So if I want to email the transaction, as soon as I print the transaction, it will send that copy directly to their email box. Now I'm going to go ahead and invoice the order. We always allow our customers the opportunity to pay cash, but if they want to charge this to their account, I'm just going to press charge. And now I'm going to capture the signature. Now the signature capture pad is the same as you use in the gas station, at the grocery store, department stores. It's just a pad that I've signed my name. I select OK for the name, and now it is printing the document and emailing that signed document to the email box that was attached to the customer. So here's a copy of our transaction. Now this is printed on plain paper. This is the laser form. So I don't need a 2 or 3 part form anymore. I could have a printer sitting there with plain paper that I just print out the copy that I'm going to give to the customer. We've electronically saved this copy on the system. So my original copy is here on the system, not only with what they purchased, also with the signature. So this takes place of the copy that you may now be spending an hour or two every day alphabetizing all of them, putting them into the file cabinets, and then at the end of the month, taking them out of the file cabinet and attaching them to a statement. With this electronic copy, I can email or fax it directly to them so that the customer already has their signed copy. And at the end of the month, I could email or fax the statement so that we've cut that processing time down to a fraction of what it once was, as well as gotten rid of the postage with it. But if I do have customers that want to have everything reprinted for them, you can select those customers and have a 2-tray printer that the first tray prints out a statement and the second tray can reprint the invoices that belong with that statement. So I can have a bundle of the customer's transactions as opposed to digging through the file cabinets. This signed copy will also hold up to an audit with the IRS or with the state. So we're really saving time, not only our daily processing of it, and maybe our monthly processing of the statements, but also if I do get that audit, I can call up these transactions very easily, print them out, give them the invoices that they need, and not have boxes and boxes of statement copies that or invoice copies that I may have to dig through. So using the laser forms will really streamline day-to-day activity as well as if you had a possible audit. The transaction itself, if I wanted to print a copy in the back for maybe delivery, I might have the white copy in the back to print out the invoice because perhaps my customer wasn't standing in front of me. I'm delivering it instead. If that's the case, when the delivery person brings back the signed copy, you can run it through a scanner. This barcode that you see represents the customer number, the invoice number, and the date, and you'll put it in a scanner with a feeder. It will feed those through, link up the original copy and now your signed copy that you just put into the system so that I'm saving those signed copies as well. So they don't have to sign it at the time that is delivered or that's the time they come into the store, but rather the delivery copy that they have. Well, that's a very short, quick look at what our order entry system can do as far as cash and charge transactions. Thank you so much for joining us today, and I hope to be talking to you soon.